The methods by which we would bring people to that experience of Shiva, which doesn't mean a wild dancer, though you can get that experience also. One of the methods by which we would bring people to that experience of Shiva, to that auspicious consciousness, was the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. So Santosh asked me to speak on the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. Now this mantra is very popular today and it is one of the most misunderstood mantras, unfortunately. Because the fact of the point is, mantras come in many ways. Mantra basically means an instrument for the mind. It is a tool you work with. It is a tool for transformation. I'll talk on mantra some other time. Today I'll just give you the Presi version. Mantras are seed mantras or they are root mantras. The seed mantras are called bija mantras. They plant a seed of possibility into you and then you keep doing the practice and then it flowers. Or there are mantras which stabilize you. Those are called mula mantras. But Mahamrityunjaya is not a bija or a mula mantra. It is a moksha mantra. It is a mantra to liberate. Those kind of mantras are atom bombs. They are not to be played with. Unfortunately, today everybody keeps using the Mahamrityunjaya in all contexts, valuable or not valuable. But if you understand the Mahamrityunjaya, because mantra has multiple things. The mantra always has a rishi. Who is the rishi who first gave the mantra to the world? What was his nature like? Because even if he is a rishi, he has certain parameters and certain boundaries. And the mantra will work within those parameters and those boundaries. What is the devta of the mantra? Who is the devta of the Mahamrityunjaya? Not Shiva, Rudra. As I was telling you, Rudra is the most wild and uncontrollable, the most powerful. So I was telling my Dadar group, Rudra literally means the howler. He howls.
The angry part of Shiva.
Not necessarily. He's just intense. He's prachand. Now, a devta, it is nice to have a devta, but a devta comes with his swarupam. He comes with his essential nature and he comes with his swabhava also. He comes with his essential behavior. Now, if you invite Rudra into your life, you cannot complain when your life is trampled into the ground, because that is his nature. That is his energy. If you live in a small little hut and you invite a wild elephant into your room, your hut will have consequences. The elephant will have a nice time and go away. So if you are doing something like the Mahamrityunjaya, it should be done under very, very specific and controlled circumstances. It should not be taken up just for on your own impulse. Somebody who knows these things should decide whether it is good for you. He should be able to initiate you, because the rishi is important. The rishi of the mantra is Markandeya. Now Markandeya was the son of a great rishi who did not actually have any karma. He did not have any karma to have children. But he was a big Shiva Bhakta, so he basically harassed Shiva until Shiva, out of sheer desperation, manifested and said, okay, what do you want? Kid, right? Right, I'll give you two choices. One is a very dumb, stupid, idiotic, moronic child who will live a long time. Or the other one is, I'll give you a brilliant kid, but he'll die by the age of 16. And you actually don't play these games with rishis, because rishis are enlightened people. He said, give me the short-lived child. I'll figure out some way around it. So he gave him the short-lived child and he taught him to do Shiva Puja, and this mantra spontaneously arose in Markandeya. And he was doing the 1,25,000 jap and Yama came for him. And he said, let me finish, then you can take me. And Yama was of the opinion that death doesn't wait because you are doing jap of Shiva. Shiva naturally got a little irritated, so he came out of the lingam and gave Yama one kick. He kicked him away. Yamakanta. Now, that aspect of Shiva you see in many temples, but the Nataraja form of that is called Samharaka, the destroyer of karma, the dissolver. Samharaka means to dissolve. And the form of Nataraja is a form with a cobra in his hand. He is dancing with a cobra with the hood open. Now you may think these are all imagination, these are all creative imaginations, but absolutely not. And the reason why is because I just gave this talk on the various kinds of Tandava. There are 64 kinds of Tandava. Most people don't know that. And one of the Tandavas I mentioned was the Samharaka Tandava. I had posted on YouTube as usual. And somebody who used to watch my videos, living in the US, writes a letter to me saying, this particular form of Shiva has been appearing to me the last 3 weeks. When he appears in front of me, I start burning from my head to foot and I want to dance uncontrollably and I did not know. So, Devatas are very real because they are what are called vital beings. Yes, in the ultimate sense, they are not Ishvara, but Devatas exist. They are forms we can interact with and they are forms that have consequences when they manifest. So immediately I made her get the 8 spiritual breaths and start doing the Kriya. And now she's very grateful for that. But she's a person with no connection to the South Indian culture of the Tandava or the Shiva. And she had that experience of the Samharaka Tandava. And she's just being eternally grateful. And I said, nothing of the matter. It activated immediately the person who could help you, also the help reached you. So you are taken care of. You don't need to be grateful in any way to me. I'm only too thankful to help, but it happens. So then of course I discovered that she was doing all kinds of Shiva mantras. Now if you do a mantra, after a time, the Devta manifests. If you do a mantra, the Devta manifests. Now this is what happens when you do things with good intentions. You don't have somebody to help you, you don't have somebody to mentor you, to control you, and to tell you what is the possibility, what can happen to you. And here, she really thought she was going bonkers. Her family was convinced of it. They were taking her and doing tests. And now that she just began breathing, she just done 2 breaths, she's okay. The whole energy has calmed down. So in America, that's a big blessing because medical bills have stopped. But the point of the matter is, she would have been, in another month or so, she would have been institutionalized as a mad person because she's seeing peculiar things, and it was because of the, maybe, may not be, but the point of the matter is, it had gone till that stage. So coming back to the Mrityunjaya was a mantra for moksha, which basically means karma does not exist anymore. The Mrityunjaya was a mantra to liberate you, to enlighten you. The fastest way to liberate you and enlighten you is to burn up your karmas. The fastest way to burn up your karmas is to give you as much trouble as possible. The Mrityunjaya does not heal, it removes karma. Very often illness is because of a karmic cause, therefore you do the Mrityunjaya and you become healed. But it was not a healing mantra. It is a karma removal. Now people just don't get this. Somebody has an accident lying in hospital, out of good intentions, everybody starts Mrityunjaya around over there. And I'm like, this is not a good idea, because whatever residual karma is holding that person in the body, promotion, directly to the next incarnation. And this happened in my own experience recently. Somebody used to come for meditation. She was a very, very dedicated meditator, everything, and she used to bewilder me when I would look at that lady, because first time I saw somebody who has burnt up all the prarabdha and is not enlightened. So how is the body holding together? 2 months later she has a stroke, she's found and the people around her start doing Mrityunjaya. Like, this is not going to last 2 months. She lingered on for a little bit, but please understand, the minute somebody is ill, don't start doing the Mrityunjaya as a healing mantra. There are many, many lovely healing mantras, not the Mrityunjaya. The Mrityunjaya burns up karma.
But isn't that a good thing that you move on? Yeah, exactly.
You ask the family where the person, you are trying to heal the person and get them back to functioning. You want your karma burnt up, it will do the job. Don't blame the Mrityunjaya for what happens. But if you want to continue living, it might not be the best or the most possible. See, the mantra is very peculiar. If you look at it, the mantra is very peculiar. We don't really realize the words are quite odd. The words are quite strange. It's just that we repeat by habit. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam. Trayambakam, the three-eyed, okay, Shiva, Shiva has got three eyes. What does that mean? There is purpose behind those three eyes. What is that level of insight? What is that level of vision? Now, when these mantras were given to you, you had a long and painful struggle figuring out each word. If you were told Trayambakam, you had to come back and tell your guru what you understood by Trayambakam. You just don't say, oh, he had a genetic malformation, so he has a third eye. You have to explain what it means that a person has three eyes. What do you understand in spiritual terms? What do you understand? Where is that third eye? Is it in the Annamaya Kosha? Is it in the Pranamaya Kosha? Where is that third eye? What is that third eye? What is this Trinetram that you keep talking about? And this is the way they would teach you. So the mantra would be taught only. Yajamaya means we adore, we surrender to, we love, we worship. Sugandhi. Right in the middle you have God is being called good smelling. He is fragrant. What for? Nobody ever thought of that. Trayambakam Yajamaya Sugandhim. Pushtivardhanam is fine. Pusht means health. Yes? Pusht we hear. Yeah? So pusht means health, the granter of health. Vardhanam, he gives, the granter of. So he gives health. Fine. That is where the mistake that this whole thing is a healing mantra. Not necessarily. Sugandhi. We'll come back to Sugandhi. What is the next line? Anybody remember? Urva Rukhamiva Bandhanat Mrityur Moksha Amrita. Urva Rukha, like the ripe cucumber falls from the stalk, releases from bondage so that we become immortal. Where is it said that you are not going to die?
Right.
It is called the Mrityunjaya. The victory over death doesn't mean that you will not experience death. So people think that it will actually stop. It will actually stop the death. It will actually stop the advent of death. No, it does not. Markandeya did not. Markandeya went out of the whole loop of time. Markandeya was such a phenomenal yogi that Shiva gave him a special boon, and he is the only person who has that boon. Time no longer has any effect on him. So no matter how many times there is pralaya, how many times there is dissolution, Markandeya is the witness. He is the eternal witness to that. He sits over there. Now for him, okay. And immortal only means that you live as long as there is one cycle of creation. After that even you dissolve. Immortal is not the same as eternal. Now most people make the difference. They confuse. Only Shiva is eternal. Only consciousness is eternal. So, as the ripe cucumber falls from the stalk. When does the cucumber fall from the stalk? When it is ripe. When you come to a certain time, when you exhaust all your prarabdhas, when your karma is ready, you also like the cucumber should fall. It is actually teaching you acceptance in a very clear sense. It is teaching you acceptance. There are certain times you come to a certain stage of ripeness, next level. And sometimes the only way you go through to the next level is through the door of death. Mrityur Moksha. Very clearly it is said that moksha is only through mrityu. तो मृत्युंजय कहाँ से होगी? मृत्युन द्वारा होना चाहिए था. Moksha Mamrita. And then I become Mamra, that is me, Amrit. Immortal, not even immortal. Amar, you become Amar. You can become Amar in so many ways. You can become Amar in the memories of people. You can become Amar because somebody builds a big pyramid in Egypt, and it lasts for. Now, Sanskrit is that way a very dangerous language because it has all these little tricks hidden in there. Each word means many things. But very clearly, it is not promising you victory over death, and it is not promising you healing. It is saying, if you do this, your karma goes. The word Sugandhin, the core is in that word Sugandhin, that odd, peculiar word where we are calling God fragrant, where we are calling God good smelling. The word is over there. We have a personality, yes? Yesterday Shishi said we move from limited identity to eternal,
Yeah, infinite.
infinite. Just yesterday Shishi Ravi Shankar explained that the Mahamrityunjaya takes you from your limited identity to being infinite. Amar. Amrit. Limited identity means you're one time short of your personality. See, again about reincarnation, we have this wrong notion that our unique personality reincarnates. Sorry, you are a one time shot. Whether 70, 80, 100, 120 years, you are a one time shot. What reincarnates is always Vasana Samaskara. What is Vasana? What is Samaskara? Vasana is the habit, Samaskara is the tendencies that your habits form. You have certain standard responses, standard likings, standard dislikings. Those are your Vasana. But the word Vasana literally means smell. What are we calling Shiva? Sugandhi. The guy who has overcome the vasanas, the guy who can overcome the vasanas. The core is in that word Sugandhi because it's an odd thing to put. It's a very, very odd thing to put. In that Sugandhim you understand, because now there is only fragrance, he has a choice because he is pure consciousness, he has the choice to do those actions. He has the choice to indulge those desires. Otherwise what happens? You do the Vasana Samaskara, it actually, the Samaskara is actually your neural pathway, We do something long enough and we rewire our brains. Each time we do an action, a little neural groove is made in your brain. And that is why we become habituated and then we become addicted. Because the impulse is the minute we see that stimulus, the response becomes habitual. That is a samaskara. But samaskaras are dependent on vasanas. So, if you do the Mahamrityunjaya, yes, your vasanas go. So, the core of the mantra is in that one word, Sugandhim. Once you have only worthwhile sattvic vasanas, then and only then Pushti Vardhanam, then you can come to health. Hello, wait. Not directly enlightenment, not directly. Then you can come to health. After that we start moving. The problem is, many diseases are part of our genetic programming. We come with that in our prarabdha, it is there. At age 45 we will have a heart attack. So if you start doing the Mahamrityunjaya at 35, you actually can burn up that karma, and to that extent you are healed. But if you have a heart attack at age 45 and the life is barely in the physical body and you start up the Mahamrityunjaya, you're just burning up all the karma that holds the life to the body. You might just eject the person out. So do not do the Mahamrityunjaya unless very clearly given an instruction by an enlightened person. Somebody who knows these things. You see, because a mantra is not what the words mean. Now it is very nice. Om Trambakam Yajame Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Murvarukam Vandana Mrityur Mokshe Mamrita. Sounds beautiful because Sanskrit is the most beautiful, it falls most beautifully on the ear. It is the most pleasing to the ear. That is why it is called the divine language, the Divya Bhasha. But the point is, that is not the power of a mantra. Yes, of course the words mean. Like I told you, this word Sugandhim is the core, it is the most important thing. But that is not the power of a mantra. A mantra vibrates syllable by syllable. When you come to a certain level of yoga, when you come to a certain level of practice in yoga, Every time you say a sound, you can feel it impacting you physically, you can feel it impacting you mentally, you can feel it impacting you emotionally, and even in your prana or your ki. Each syllable has a direct vibrational impact on you. Now, you might think this is going a bit far, but if somebody says you are stupid and you have body odor, immediately we know the power of words. Yes? Mental and emotional, direct. Yeah, and when the person is not watching, so do not underestimate what words can do. And I am saying, when you put charged syllables, which is why a lot of mantras are just nonsense syllables. The teachers themselves say they don't mean anything. They are not meant to do anything. The bijams, yeah, something like ream. What does ream mean? It doesn't mean anything. But it does something intense. What it does, it starts dissolving karma. It is the core mantra to dissolve karma. So when you put all these words together, and you are in a certain level of yoga, you are in a certain level of meditation, where in a certain level of, you can feel the impact happening across the body, across the mind, across the emotion, and most of all across your prana. You can feel it hitting and transforming. You can feel it. Basically, this kind of mantra, because it is a moksha mantra, it completely demolishes you first. Then it rearranges you at a higher level of vibration. But that demolition is very dangerous demolition. Very often, everything that you held valuable or everything that is socially valuable is taken away. So there are other mantras. Why go for something? These mantras were for very, very advanced people. These mantras were for people deep in sadhana. These mantras were usually done in the safe confines of ashram. Because, trust me, tremendous things will happen to your body. So much energy will rise in your body that you will feel like that lady felt that she was burning up. And she wanted to dance. From head to toe, she is burning. So you need to be in an environment where other people have gone through that and they know what to do to help you. And until you know really, until you have certain level of experience and knowledge, do not go playing with these mantras. The other thing is everybody keeps doing the Gayatri. Fortunately, that is not even the Gayatri, that is the Savitri. It's another matter. The one that we all know, it's not even the real Gayatri. That's something called the Savitri mantra. The real Gayatri is still secret, fortunately. Or then we do that other one, that's Sarva Mangal Mangalya and all those. Those mantras are all atom bomb mantras. Please, unless you have been given by, and just because somebody dresses like me, that doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about also. Yes? Or they're a panditji. That also doesn't mean that they know. You need to really be careful before you take, because to my consternation, some of the people learning meditation from me, I found that they are not doing one mantra, they're doing multiple mantras. I said, ये mantra japa hai ki grantha japa hai? Because it is not. See, a mantra has a rishi, has a devta, has a channel. Yes? It has a way in which the Shakti flows. Okay, so you do Mamritunjay solidly for 1 hour. Immediately you begin some other mantra. Where is the Shakti going to flow? Now people are doing up to 7 mantras at a time. Where is the... you've created a traffic jam for the energy to come in. If you know what you're doing, and if the person who prescribed the mantra to you knows what he is doing, that one mantra should clear up all the issues. Very obviously people don't, because they read it in a book and that's it. They open the dukan the next day. But 7 mantras at a time, all this is just bonkers. It is no longer mantra japa, it is grantha japa now. So, it's like a whole text is being. So to come back, there is even a tantric version of the Mrityunjaya, but I don't want to tell you that because it is all full of dangerous bija mantras. But the Mrityunjaya does have a longer version. with all kinds of seed syllables and things like that. But to come back to the Mrityunjaya, yes, it can heal, but it heals only if the healing is tied to karmic reasons. It is not a physically healing mantra, it is a karma healing mantra. The two are different. There are mantras which can actually heal you. When there is illness, when there is some kind of catastrophe, there are mantras which can actually heal you. But they're usually Devi mantras, they're usually Lakshmi mantras, they are not Rudra Shiva. Sugandhim also has the aspect that Rudra in the Vedas is very odd because he is a very cranky fellow. Sometimes he will shoot arrows of disease at you, sometimes arrows of healing. Healing, yeah. So there is a specific prayers that shoot only the arrows of healing, not the arrows of disease. But that Sugandhim again, that fragrance again, it is probably associated with that notion of him as a healer. Because if you've ever gone into an Ayurvedic pharmacy, it smells beautiful. Yes, when they give you the medicine, it usually tastes terrible and bitter. But when they have collected all those healing herbs and everything, it's one of the most extraordinary and unmistakable scents. It's just extraordinary. The smell of a real, good, authentic, traditional Ayurvedic, it's just that's fragrance, that's real. So that sense of the healer, again, this used to be a physician's mantra. This used to be a physician's mantra because the physicians knew how to take that karma into themselves and then work it out. There is a way where you can take the karma into yourself and then work it out. Complex business, I am not getting into that. But physicians used to know it. Because physicians used to do that, today people are repeating what they see the physician do externally with none of the internal work. See, the reason why people do the Mahamrityunjaya and all that is because they are not aware. If you are aware of the Mahamrityunjaya, you would not do it at all. Or you would do it under very, very controlled circumstances. Because if you feel how your body starts vibrating. Now the Mahamrityunjaya is very odd because if you can say it in a fast tempo, it gives one kind of result. If you say it in a very slow tempo, actually the whole environment becomes tamasic. If you repeat just 15 times, I've seen people do that. People start yawning, people start falling asleep, people lose interest in the Havan. Whereas if you do it at a fast tempo, Om Trambakam Yajame Sugamni Pushtivakina Murvaru, within 15-16 you will feel the difference in the room. The whole room feels like you've turned a furnace on. So both are dangerous. You have to say it at an even tempo. You can do the Mrityunjaya Havan on your birthday. You can do it on day like Shivratri. You can do it on Guru Purnima. These are the 3 safe times of the year. And you can do that. Which her? It was her birthday, no? It was her birthday. It was her birthday.
Or some significant...
Or there is something significant and somebody who knows what is going on has advised you to do that. But please be sure that they know. This one size fits all, somebody is ill, do the Mrityunjaya. Somebody has an accident, do the Mrityunjaya. Somebody is going in for an operation, do the Mrityunjaya. Please don't. Because if you advise and that person died, that karma comes on to you. Not on the person who did it. Even Om Namah Shivaya people are not supposed to do. Because the Namah Shivaya is called the Panchakshara Stotra. Just 5 letters in it. Namah Shivaya. Actually, public domain, only time we are supposed to do it is tonight. Panchakshara Stotram is a very, very deadly mantra that way because it immediately creates intense vairagya, desire to renounce. You start losing all the desire to function efficiently in the world with the Panchakshara Stotram. So it just takes you direct. It's a fast route. You want to become enlightened? Sure, guaranteed. The price is everything.
It's okay.
Most people it is not okay. Most people it is not okay. So when you do, there are many mantras. Is it a bija mantra? Have you for years done mula mantras? Have you got your system stabilized? Has the foundations of your system become okay? Have you practiced enough foundational mantras before you start jumping into moksha mantras? Yeah? Are Baba, Hanuman jumped to Lanka, Rama walked. Yeah, and he is God. But he still walked. Hanuman is a Rudra, so that is why he jumped. He is the 11th Rudra of Shiva, so he jumped. So it's not just the Mrityunjaya. The Mrityunjaya is just the best example of these kind of misunderstandings. It is a very powerful mantra, but please follow the rules. There are rules. If you don't know the rules, if you don't know the Rishi, you don't know the Devta, and you don't know the Kshetram, you don't know the field in which it works, you're not supposed to do the mantra.
When we do the mantra, we always do the Guru Puja before we do the mantra.
Correct.
So I do believe the intention with which you also do, you may not know, like I don't know anything of what you're saying too much.
See, when the Guru Puja is done, then the Gurus will protect.
Exactly.
When the Guru Puja is done, the Gurus will protect. Also, when you do it, you normally don't do it you do it in a controlled space, or you do it in places, or it is done in the parampara, in the tradition. So there are protections, there are inbuilt protections. But normally that's not how it is done. No? Normally it is used. Normally it is used. It is a healing mantra. Somebody is in an operation theatre, immediately outside they set up a chant. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. Sometimes it works also, but more often than not, it can create real trouble. Because the Mahamrityunjaya is not a foundational mantra. Mula mantra, it is not. Bija mantra, it is not. Moksha mantra. Liberation. Moksha doesn't come for free. Moksha takes all your karma. Now, what happened with that person that I was talking about was she exhausted all her karma in this lifetime. But she didn't have the ability or the intensity to start exhausting the karma of the previous lifetimes. So she could neither stay here nor there was any real reason to pass forward, So it was this very peculiar Trishanku Swargam that she was in. A complicated story. So the thing is, Rudra, you see, the Rudra today, fortunately, we don't know much about him. We have selected the more civilized version of him called Shiva, and we worship Shiva. The Vedic Rudra is a very uncontrollable kind of energy. Not a bad energy, but an uncontrollable energy. You need to be at that level of vibration before you can dare to interact with that. And every time you do a mantra, you are establishing a line of communication to the Devta. And most of us are not in a place where we can deal with Rudra, quite frankly.